What's up? Welcome back to the Metalhead Car Show. Do you want that Lamborghini but you're living on Matty Mathis and peanut butter noodles? Well, same here. The sports car and supercar market is truly insane, and a lot of these cars that were almost obtainable not that long ago are not anymore. But the idea and dream of having a cool mid-engine sports car still remains. So, how do you do it? So as much as a lot of these supercars are completely out of reach for a lot of people, there are still some cars you can get into. So today I want to go over 5 mid-engine cars you can get into for low dollar. So let's get right into it. In 5th place, starting off with the Fiat X1. Designed by Balboni, the Fiat X1 came out in 1972 and went to 1982, being a Fiat alternative to the super expensive supercar market. Again, designed by Balboni, has pop-up headlights, rear-wheel drive, mid-engine, and a target top. It's everything you kind of want. And despite it has that beautiful sort of textbook perfect supercar layout, there's a reason it's in 5th place. The reason why the Fiat's in 5th place is that at its peak, it made 84 horsepower. Now, yes, it weighed 2,000 pounds. This is a tiny car. It didn't weigh much. It didn't really need much. But it's gonna be real hard to look badass next to that Gallardo when you're in a car that would be smoked by a Prius. Along with that, parts for the X1 are not the easiest to come by. I've seen 1 or 2 people in the Ottawa area who have more than one other property. Most likely one's a parts car, but nonetheless, it's a pretty little car that might give you the thrill of having a mid-engine car. And starting at $5,000, I can see why people get into them. In 4th place, the Honda Beat. Being one of the ABC cars, the Honda Beat was Honda's sporty K-car entry. With most of the K-cars being small pickup trucks, small vans, the Honda Beat was a really refreshing entry into the market. And in North America, they're fairly unusual to come by, so you're always going to get a little bit of attention from driving it. And despite Honda says its redline's 9,000 RPM, most people say it's actually 10,000 RPM. Which, for the people who are interested in it, that's the highest revving car on this entire list. These things are generally super cool, you don't see many of them. The Mazda AZ1 was the A of the ABC cars, and it's not on the list because they got wildly expensive. So why isn't it any higher on the list? Well, it kind of has the same issue as the Fiat. Now, yes, you can pick one up for $5,000, sometimes a little bit less than that. I just kind of did it as an average. But being a JDM car, parts aren't super available in North America, and these things made 63 horsepower and would hit maybe 85 miles per hour. Now, a K-Series swap would make a monster. A tiny little car with that super capable engine would be an awesome build. But we're not looking at projects, we're looking at what the car is and how it would actually be to live with, so I can't put it super high on the list. If parts are more available here, it would absolutely be higher, but that's just not the case. Nonetheless, love these things. In 3rd place, and nobody's gonna like this, but the Pontiac Fiero. Now, I generally don't hate Fieros. I know they're not great at all, but it's a mid-engine sports car that you can get into for starting like $2,000. Now, I never said it earlier, but all the prices I'm using are in Canadian. So if the American audience is watching that and thinking my numbers are a little bit wonky, that's why. Anyway, Fiero. The Fiero is actually kind of cool. Like, I'm not going to go into build ideas because I didn't do that for the Honda Beats. I'm not doing it for this, although I've seen people drop twin turbo LSs in this and make a wicked drag car. But as it is, it's a pretty gutless sports car from the past. At its best, it came with like a 135 horsepower V6. It wasn't fast, the handle really sketchy, the interior's a mess, but I gotta say, at their peak, they looked cool. Now, I never think you're gonna get the recognition as you will from the other cars on the list because, well, it's a Pontiac Fiero, but this list isn't really organized by what's the cheapest or what's the fastest. One of the things that makes the Fiero a little bit better to own, in my opinion, than the other two, which no one's gonna like me saying that, but you can actually go buy parts for Fieros. They are available. I'm not gonna say you go buy every single part for the car. Everything's aging on this list, but you could buy enough parts for this car to actually keep it running. Unlike the Fiat, you could actually go to your local Canadian Tire, AutoZone, whatever, and actually get parts for this thing. So because I think they look pretty cool and you could actually keep one alive, and it does give cool 80s vibes of the mid-engine sports car, it's going in 3rd on the list. In 2nd place, The Toyota MR2. Now that's where things on the list start to get a little bit more expensive. The MR2 starts at like $10,000 now. The days of finding a $3,000 MR2 are gone. But I think among any car on this list, the MR2 definitely has the most amount of aftermarket support. And again, we're not talking about builds, but you could definitely do likely the most with the MR2 than you could anything else. The only really downside I have to say about the MR2 is the early ones are known for having pretty violent snap oversteer, and if you want an MR2 turbo, you're dropping like $40,000 now, so I'm not even mentioning the turbo for this list. But if you want something that's likely going to be pretty reliable, have pop-up headlights, T-top, be mid-engine rear-wheel drive, which is the whole point of this list, and have just that cool 80s, 90s nostalgia to it, the MR2 is a great idea. So if I have a lot of good things to say about the MR2, why isn't it in first place? Well, I think it's kind of the branding. Now the MR2 is hot with the JDM community. There isn't a single person in the JDM cars who doesn't know what an MR2 is. But let's be real, one of the reasons you're buying a mid-engine car is to be looked at. So I think the car that's in first place just has the name recognition that the MR2 doesn't have, and I think it's probably the right choice to be the winner. Anyway, in first place, starting around $10,000, the Gen 1 Porsche Boxsters. Now, some people might not like that comment, but honestly, why? You're not gonna be able to convince me that the runny egg headlights don't look good, and the flat engine Porsches are known to be fairly reliable. Now, yes, I'm fully aware of the intermediate shaft issue that the Boxsters and 996 911s had. I know. So that means even being a $10,000 car, it still might need $5,000 of work. But the reality is, none of these cars are new. The Boxster might be the newest car on the list, and I think the newest version of the Gen 1 cars was 2004, which means the newest car on this list is actually the Boxster at 20 years old. All of these cars would need work. And with the Boxster, you're actually going to be able to find parts for it. So even if you got a base model Porsche Boxster, it's the most powerful car on the list. Long term, I think it might be the most reliable car on the list, and it has more name recognition than anything else on the list. Yes, a early Porsche Boxster makes maybe 200, maybe 220 horsepower, and it does have that intermediate shaft issue, but I generally think the Gen 1 Porsche Boxster would be your best bet. But I want to know, what do you think? What do you think is the best cheap mid-engine sports car you can go buy? Let me know in the comments. Thank you all so much for watching. Like, subscribe if you enjoyed a view seed. I tend to post on Tuesday, Thursday, and Sunday, and I'll see you later.